There's a dangerous family pattern that can hide behind words like loyalty, respect, responsibility, and love. It teaches you to answer every call while ignoring the cries of your own heart. It teaches you to solve everyone's problems while your own life remains unattended. It teaches you to smile when you are exhausted, agree when you are uncomfortable, and remain silent when something inside you is begging to speak. You may have spent years believing that this is what a good son, a good daughter, a good sibling, a good partner, or a good parent must do. But there is a difference between loving your family and losing yourself for your family. The moment you understand that difference, your life begins to change. You stop treating your needs as inconveniences. You stop apologizing for your limits. You stop confusing guilt with responsibility. And you begin to understand a powerful truth. You were not born merely to carry everyone else. You are also given a life to develop, a mind to protect, a voice to use, and a purpose to fulfill. Many people ignore their own needs because they were taught directly or indirectly that love must be earned through sacrifice. In some families, affection, praise, and acceptance are given most freely when a child is helpful, obedient, quiet, responsible, or emotionally convenient. The child begins to notice a pattern. When I make life easier for everyone else, I am appreciated. When I express pain, disagreement, tiredness, or personal needs, I create tension. Because children naturally depend on their families for safety and belonging, they adapt. They learn to become useful before they learn to become emotionally honest. This pattern may not always come from cruelty. Sometimes parents are overwhelmed, emotionally immature, financially stressed, or repeating what they learned in their own childhood. They may praise one child for being the strong one, the mature one, or the one who never causes problems. These descriptions can sound positive, but they may quietly become assignments. The child starts believing that strength means never needing support, and maturity means suppressing feelings. They may become skilled at sensing what everyone else requires while losing contact with their own internal world. Over time, usefulness becomes connected to identity. The person no longer asks, "What do I need?" They ask, "What will keep everyone happy?" They may agree to responsibilities they cannot manage, stay available when exhausted, give resources they cannot afford to lose, or tolerate disrespect to avoid disappointing someone. They may feel more comfortable helping than receiving help because giving allows them to feel valuable, while receiving makes them feel vulnerable or guilty. This creates a dangerous emotional equation. Sacrifice equals love, and personal needs equal selfishness. Once this belief becomes deeply rooted, even healthy self-care can feel wrong. Rest may feel lazy. Privacy may feel disrespectful. Saying no may feel like betrayal. Asking for support may feel like weakness. The person may continue functioning outwardly while becoming emotionally depleted inwardly. The greatest danger is that this pattern can look admirable from the outside. Other people may call you generous, dependable, loyal, selfless, or strong. These qualities can be beautiful when they come from freedom and balance. But when they come from fear, guilt, or the belief that you must earn your place in the family, they become forms of self-abandonment. True generosity is a choice. Compulsive sacrifice is a survival strategy. The difference is important. When you give freely, you may become tired, but you do not lose yourself. When you give from fear, you often experience resentment, anxiety, emotional numbness, or hidden anger. You may begin to feel unappreciated because you are offering more than you can emotionally afford, yet you continue offering it because you fear what will happen if you stop. You may even attract relationships that repeat the same family pattern. People who are accustomed to taking may recognize your difficulty with boundaries. They may rely heavily on your time, energy, patience, money, or emotional support. Because overgiving feels familiar, you may mistake it for closeness. You may believe that being needed is the same as being loved. But being needed and being valued are not always the same thing. Someone may need what you provide without respecting who you are. Someone may appreciate your usefulness while ignoring your exhaustion. Someone may praise your loyalty while expecting you to remain silent about your pain. Healthy love does not only ask what you can give, it also cares about what giving costs you. Healing begins when you understand that your worth existed before your service. You were valuable before you solved anyone's problem, carried anyone's burden, or made anyone comfortable. Your value is not a reward for being useful. It is part of your humanity. This understanding does not require you to stop caring for your family. It requires you to care without disappearing. You can support people without accepting responsibility for every outcome. You can be generous without neglecting your essential needs. You can love deeply while recognizing that your time, energy, emotions, and resources have limits. Begin noticing the moments when you say yes automatically. Ask yourself what you fear would happen if you said no. Are you afraid of criticism, withdrawal, conflict, rejection, or being called selfish? That fear may reveal where the old family pattern is still influencing your decisions. Then practice pausing. Instead of answering immediately, say, "Let me think about that." This small pause creates space between the request and your learned reaction. It allows you to choose rather than comply automatically. You are not becoming selfish by recognizing your needs. You are becoming responsible for the life entrusted to you. You cannot remain emotionally healthy while continuously abandoning yourself. Love that requires your disappearance is not healthy love. The goal is not to stop giving. The goal is to stop believing that giving everything is the price you must pay to deserve belonging. Some people grow up believing that their main purpose inside the family is to hold everything together. They become the one who keeps the peace, comforts the adults, protects younger siblings, solves problems, absorbs tension, and remains strong when everyone else is falling apart. This role may begin so early that the person does not even recognize it as a burden. It simply feels normal. They learn to watch facial expressions, notice changes in tone, predict conflict, and respond before anyone asks. While other children are allowed to be carefree, they become emotionally responsible for the atmosphere around them. This pattern can create a person who appears mature, capable, and dependable. Others may admire their strength. Family members may praise them for being responsible. But beneath that strength is often a hidden belief. If I do not take care of everyone, something bad will happen. That belief can follow them into adulthood. They may feel anxious when other people are upset, even when they did nothing wrong. They may rush to solve problems before being asked. They may take responsibility for emotions, decisions, and consequences that belong to other adults. The caretaker becomes skilled at recognizing everyone's needs except their own. They can sense when someone is tired, angry, disappointed, or afraid, but they may struggle to answer a simple question. What do I need right now? They have spent so much time looking outward that looking inward feels unfamiliar. Rest may feel irresponsible. Asking for help may feel weak. Receiving care may even feel uncomfortable because they are accustomed to being the giver, not the one being supported. This is why many caretakers continue giving long after they are exhausted. They believe their value comes from being needed. When no one needs their help, they may feel invisible, unimportant, or uncertain about their identity. They may enter friendships, workplaces, and relationships where they automatically become the rescuer. They choose people who need fixing because being useful feels like love. They confuse emotional responsibility with emotional connection. But helping someone and carrying someone are not the same thing. Healthy support respects the other person's responsibility. Unhealthy caretaking removes responsibility from them and places it on you. When you constantly solve another person's problems, manage their moods, excuse their behavior, or protect them from every consequence, you may be preventing them from developing maturity. What feels like love may actually be maintaining dependence. You were never meant to become the emotional manager of every person around you. You can care without controlling outcomes. You can listen without taking the pain home with you. You can offer guidance without becoming responsible for whether someone follows it. You can love your family without becoming the permanent solution to every crisis they create. One of the hardest lessons for a lifelong caretaker is understanding that other people are allowed to struggle. They are allowed to feel disappointed. They are allowed to make mistakes. They are allowed to face consequences. Their discomfort does not automatically create an obligation for you. Sometimes the most respectful thing you can do is step back and allow another adult to use their own strength. This may feel cruel at first because your nervous system is accustomed to immediate action. The moment someone becomes upset, you may feel pressure to fix it. The moment a conflict begins, you may feel responsible for calming everyone. The moment a family member asks for help, you may say yes before considering your time, energy, health, or finances. That automatic response is not always generosity. Sometimes it is survival training from an earlier stage of life. Healing begins when you create a pause between another person's need and your response. Before stepping in, ask yourself, is this truly my responsibility? Ask, am I helping because I freely choose to, or because I'm afraid of guilt, criticism, or rejection? Ask, will this support the person's growth, or will it teach them that I will always carry what belongs to them? You do not have to stop being compassionate. You do not have to become cold. Your caring nature is not the problem. The problem begins when care requires you to disappear. Compassion becomes unhealthy when your body is exhausted, your goals are neglected, your emotions are suppressed, and your life is constantly interrupted by responsibilities that are not yours. You are allowed to be dependable without being endlessly available. You are allowed to support others while protecting your own stability. You are allowed to say, I care about you, but I cannot solve this for you. That statement is not rejection. It is a declaration that both people are capable of responsibility. Your worth does not come from how many burdens you can carry. You do not have to earn love by becoming indispensable. You are valuable even when you are resting, receiving support, setting limits, or allowing someone else to handle their own life. The caretaker role may have helped you survive your past, but it does not have to control your future. You can keep your compassion while releasing the weight. You can love your family without becoming responsible for everything that happens within it. You can finally learn that being strong does not only mean carrying others. Sometimes strength means putting down what was never yours to carry. When you grow up in a family where obedience is rewarded more than honesty, boundaries can feel like betrayal. You may have learned that being good meant being available, agreeable, quiet, and willing to adjust yourself for everyone else. Approval came when you cooperated. Peace returned when you surrendered your preferences. Affection may have felt strongest when you did what was expected. Slowly, your mind connected acceptance with compliance. That connection can remain active long after childhood ends. As an adult, you may know intellectually that you have the right to say no, yet your body reacts as if you have committed a serious offense. Your heart races. You begin rehearsing explanations. You imagine the other person becoming angry, disappointed, or distant. Even before anyone responds, guilt starts punishing you. This is because a boundary does not only change one decision, it challenges the role you were trained to play. Perhaps you became the family member who always answered the phone, solved emergencies, lent money, avoided conflict, or sacrificed personal plans. Everyone became accustomed to your flexibility. Your availability may have become part of how the family functioned. The moment you begin protecting your time, energy, privacy, or finances, the system feels the change. People who benefited from your lack of limits may not immediately celebrate your growth. They may describe your boundary as disrespect, selfishness, pride, or disloyalty. They may say that you have changed, as though change is automatically wrong. They may compare you to your former self because the former version was easier for them to access. You must understand that another person's resistance does not prove that your boundary is unhealthy. Sometimes resistance simply reveals how comfortable people had become with your self-neglect. A boundary is not a punishment. It is not an attempt to control another person. It is a clear statement about what you will participate in, what treatment you will accept, and what responsibilities you can realistically carry. You are not saying, you must behave exactly as I demand. You are saying, if this conversation becomes insulting, I will leave. You are not saying, you are forbidden from asking me for help. You are saying, I cannot continue providing financial support. You are not saying, your feelings do not matter. You are saying, your feelings cannot make every decision for my life. This distinction is important because people raised around emotional pressure often confuse boundaries with rejection. They believe that declining a request means withdrawing love. But love and unlimited access are not the same thing. You can love someone deeply and still be unavailable. You can respect your relatives and still disagree with them. You can care about their struggles without becoming responsible for fixing every struggle. Healthy families make room for individuality. They understand that each person has different needs, responsibilities, capacities, and goals. Unhealthy patterns demand sameness, silence, or sacrifice to preserve comfort. They treat independence as abandonment because independence reduces control. Your task is not to convince everyone that your boundary is reasonable. Endless explanations often become invitations for negotiation. You explain your exhaustion, and someone tells you why you should help anyway. You explain your financial limits, and they minimize your responsibilities. You explain your discomfort, and they argue that you are overreacting. A boundary that depends on universal agreement will rarely survive. You may need to speak simply, "I'm not able to do that. I need time to consider it. I will not continue this conversation while I am being shouted at. I have made my decision." At first, these words may feel unnatural. You may feel cruel, even when you're calm and respectful. That discomfort is not necessarily a warning. It may be evidence that you are replacing an old survival pattern with a healthier one. You must allow other adults to experience disappointment. You do not have to rescue everyone from the emotional consequences of hearing no. Disappointment is survivable. Frustration is survivable. Someone misunderstanding you is survivable. What is dangerous is repeatedly betraying yourself to prevent others from feeling uncomfortable. Every time you ignore your limits, resentment grows. Every time you agree out of fear, your relationships become less honest. You may appear peaceful externally while becoming increasingly angry internally. That is not genuine harmony. It is suppressed conflict. Real peace requires truth. It requires the courage to say what you can give and what you cannot give. It requires recognizing that your time has value, your energy has limits, and your well-being deserves protection. You are not dishonoring your family by becoming emotionally healthy. You are refusing to continue a pattern that taught love without limits and responsibility without balance. The people who genuinely care for you may need time to adjust, but they will eventually learn that your boundaries do not eliminate love. They make healthier love possible. You can remain kind without being controlled. You can remain generous without being emptied. You can remain connected without disappearing. The goal is not to build walls around your heart. The goal is to place doors in your life and understand that you are allowed to decide when, how, and for whom those doors will open. Healing begins when you finally understand that loving your family does not require abandoning yourself. Many people confuse care with self-neglect because they were taught that a good family member always gives, always forgives, always remains available, and never makes anyone uncomfortable. They were praised for being patient even when they were exhausted. They were called mature when they stayed silent. They were described as strong when they carried responsibilities that should never have belonged to them. Over time, sacrifice became more than an action. It became their identity. This is why taking care of yourself may feel unnatural. The moment you rest, guilt appears. The moment you say no, anxiety rises. The moment you choose your own priorities, you begin wondering whether you have become selfish. But that reaction does not necessarily mean you are making the wrong decision. It often means you are challenging a deeply established family pattern. You must learn the difference between selfishness and self-respect. Selfishness ignores the humanity and needs of others. Self-respect recognizes that your humanity and needs matter too. Selfishness says, only I matter. Self-respect says, I matter as well. These are not the same thing. A healthy life requires balance. There will be moments when you make sacrifices for people you love. There may be emergencies, illnesses, difficulties, and seasons when a family member genuinely needs you. Sacrifice can be honorable when it is freely chosen, guided by wisdom, and connected to a meaningful purpose. But sacrifice becomes damaging when it is demanded constantly, controlled through guilt, or expected from only one person. You were never meant to become the permanent solution to every family problem. You cannot continuously rescue adults from their choices without eventually weakening both yourself and them. When you solve every crisis, provide every resource, and absorb every emotional consequence, you may unintentionally prevent other people from developing responsibility. Your help can become a hiding place where they avoid growth. Sometimes love must look like support, and sometimes love must look like stepping back. Sometimes love says, I will walk beside you. At other times, love says, I cannot carry you through a lesson you must learn for yourself. This does not make you cold. It makes your care more honest. You can listen to someone's pain without making it your permanent emotional burden. You can offer advice without taking control of the outcome. You can provide assistance without damaging your own health, finances, relationships, or future. You can care without allowing another person's crisis to become the center of your life. Many people believe boundaries mean rejection, but boundaries actually make healthier relationships possible. Without boundaries, generosity becomes resentment, patience becomes emotional exhaustion, support becomes obligation, love becomes fear. A boundary protects the space where real love can continue without destroying the person who is giving it. You might say, "I love you, but I cannot lend more money." You might say, "I care about what you are going through, but I am not available to talk tonight." You might say, "I respect you, but I will leave this conversation if insults continue." You might say, "I understand that you are disappointed, but this decision is necessary for my well-being." These statements are not disrespectful. They are examples of emotional maturity. They acknowledge both the relationship and your limits. Some people may resist your boundaries because they benefited from your lack of them. When you stop solving every problem, they may accuse you of changing. When you begin protecting your time, they may say you are becoming distant. When you stop accepting disrespect, they may claim that you are too sensitive. Do not allow these reactions to confuse you. People who are accustomed to unlimited access may experience healthy limits as rejection. Their discomfort, however, does not automatically mean your boundary is wrong. It may simply mean the relationship is being asked to adjust. You must also understand that forgiveness and access are not the same thing. You can release resentment without returning to an unhealthy situation. You can understand why someone behaves as they do without volunteering to become the target of that behavior. You can have compassion for their wounds without allowing those wounds to continue injuring you. Understanding your family history may help you heal. Perhaps the people who raised you were repeating patterns they learned from previous generations. Perhaps they were taught to suppress emotion, avoid conflict, control through guilt, or define love through sacrifice. Recognizing this history can create compassion, but compassion should never become an excuse for continued harm. You can honor where you came from while choosing a healthier direction. You can say, "I understand why this pattern exists, but it will not continue through me." This is where transformation begins. It begins when you stop asking whether everyone approves of your healing. It begins when you stop treating guilt as a command. It begins when you stop measuring love by how much pain you are willing to tolerate. Your family may need time to understand the healthier version of you. Some may never understand. Your responsibility is not to force them to agree. Your responsibility is to become consistent, respectful, and honest. Take care of yourself without becoming cruel. Speak clearly without becoming insulting. Create distance without seeking revenge. Offer support without surrendering your entire life. Love people deeply, but remember that you are also one of the people you have been given responsibility to care for. Your needs are not enemies of love. Your rest is not betrayal. Your boundaries are not punishment. Your voice is not disrespect. Your future is not something you should sacrifice simply to keep everyone else comfortable. You can love your family and still protect your peace. You can serve them without disappearing. You can remain connected without being controlled. You can be compassionate without becoming responsible for everything. The goal is not to stop loving others. The goal is to stop excluding yourself from the love you so freely give.